as I put my coffee cup down. All
Okay.
right. Hey guys, welcome to episode four. Four, there we go. Two on each hands. Today we have the lovely guest, Hallie, not Barry, Rexer. So Hallie, you and I never really had an actual conversation. So it kind of just like I was just like looking for guests, and I'm like, she seems cool. I've seen her a couple of times free range, but beside that, never really talked to her to reach out. Hallie was great to just like reach out. I was like, yeah, why not? And so I guess the first thing I'll ask is like, Hallie, go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you and everything?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Hallie Rexer. I've been going to free range since December of 2019. So just about 7 months now, and it's been such a great experience. And yeah, I've seen Alex a couple times, usually in the morning classes, and I'm excited for this. I like to talk a lot, so I'm sure I'll talk a lot.
Nice. So, Hallie, you've mentioned in a little bit bioptic that you used to be a college athlete, correct?
Mhm.
And I believe it was soccer.
Yes, yeah. So
Okay.
I played soccer my whole life. I played soccer in college out in Pittsburgh, and that's actually how I kind of started getting into CrossFit. Was during the summers when I would be at home following training plans. I always hated our formal lifting plans; they were just boring to me, and I really hated the lifting portion. And my older brother, he was a Marine, and he used CrossFit to get fit for boot camp. And
Mhm.
so he recommended me checking it out back in Pennsylvania. And as soon as I joined, I just really loved the competitive aspect of it. And I was kind of able to sneak all the lifting workouts into that I didn't necessarily want to do on my own. And so, yeah, I just really got hooked pretty quickly.
Gotcha. Are you originally from Pennsylvania?
Yep, I'm from Scranton, PA. So for any
Okay.
hockey fans, um, a little
Hey,
bit north of Philadelphia.
I'm a little bit familiar with that area because I also used to live in PA before I moved here.
Oh, where?
Yeah, in a small colonial town that probably no one's heard of called Middletown, Pennsylvania. It's literally, it's in Lancaster County, right,
Yep.
right in between Philly and Pitt. So whenever football season came into play, it was literally two like Bloods versus Crips, like very religious. And I
Oh,
remember my first winter there in like fall. I was just like, my first math class that I went to, and I was a new kid on the block coming from Texas. It literally just like the rows of your traditional classroom separated as an empty row in the middle, and there's just two rows of like your Steelers and your Eagles fan, and just like, wow, could you cut like someone with that attention?
oh
So it's
yeah.
just like, oh, kind of, I was like, oh my god. So I was like, yeah. So like, eventually, I ended up becoming a Steelers fan, but mostly because it was like Bettis the bus, because like he was asthmatic and I was very asthmatic. I was a very sickly kid, so I was just
Yeah.
like, this is really cool. Yeah, like, yeah, cool. And I've never been like that. And then I kind of fell off with the sport. No, it's like not exciting to watch. Love watching it live, but I'm like, it's kind of the same thing, kind of. Also, it's a religion. It's like very much a religion. Like you, once you get into your sport and you figure out everything, it's just like, oh my god, it's so hard to keep up and everything like that. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah. So you
so
moved out there for college?
yeah, I came out here for college. I originally came in for my game development degree. There were when I first looked for colleges in the small town. I just had to get out because, like, small mindset. I'm like, I can't do this. This is like, I'm gonna go crazy. Um, and so it was either I was gonna move to Florida to go to a university called Full State University, or I was gonna go to a school here. Um, I guess I shouldn't have said names, but I already said it. But I went to a school called UAT, which is University of Advancing Technology, got my gaming degree within 2 years of bachelor. And I was like, I got another like two. I was like, I needed a backup. And so I got into film production and actually became kind of like technicality wise an award winning filmmaker, and then did visual effects, and then decided to move out to career into now insurance. So that's how I came to be. Just very dramatic change within
Yeah.
the last 2 years. A lot more since I started free range, which is coming up on my 3 year anniversary. So a little bit crazy and everything like that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so Hallie, how are you doing in like this whole crazy world that's happening in 2020? Because you
Yeah.
just started in December with free range, so
Mhm.
how's that changing, like affecting everything, and like how's your whole being just throughout the whole aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very, very extroverted person. So I'm a fundraiser for ASU, specifically at the law school. And so I spend my day with people, mostly, going to a coffee meeting with a donor, then maybe back to the office with my team, and then back out to a lunch meeting. And so a typical day for me is a lot of meetings, a lot of interaction with people, with students. I love to bring students along with me. And so I'm surrounded by them the whole day. And to then come back home, and now I live in a 1 bedroom place by myself, to have no interaction with people has been very, very hard for my personality
Mm-hmm.
type. But it's been, I think now I'm at a pretty good place. It took a little while to adjust to that. And I think the uncertainty of how long we would be at home, that's still uncertain. But at first, it really was, oh, is this going to be 2 or 3 weeks, or, up to 2 months seemed like a high estimate. And at the time I was like, I can't stay at home for 2 months. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But I really just kind of dove into workouts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because when we were at the park,
Mm-hmm.
I was probably working out on average 3 times a day. So I would get up, go for a morning walk or run, then go to the noon park workout, and then go for a hike at night. And that became my routine. Unfortunately, now I am back to being injured and had to slow everything down. But still trying to, work out at least once a day, every day,
Mm-hmm.
and throw myself into other things to stay as sane as possible.
Gotcha. So what happened to the injury? Like what happened?
Yeah. So it's actually a year ago, coming up in the end of August, early September, I had my fifth knee surgery in 5 years. And so
What per
that's
anniversary? Is that what's going on?
yeah,
Jesus.
exactly. So playing college soccer, I had three surgeries. It started with my ACL the end of my junior year, and then my senior year I had two meniscus repairs. And so three pretty intense surgeries within about a year and a half time span. And then after college, I moved out to Arizona, started to get into the triathlon world. And because I was really doing a lot of swimming and biking just for rehab. And so I was like, oh, I'll just do triathlons, and started to look for workout groups that were doing triathlons out here in Phoenix because I didn't know anyone. And that's really how I built my community, was through the triathlon world out here. And then I had signed up for a half Ironman, and about 2 months before the race, I found out I needed another knee surgery. But luckily, that one was not as invasive as the other ones. They just went out and removed my meniscus completely. So my race was in 6 weeks, and I raced on it, and it was okay. Definitely not good, but okay.
Hey,
And then
hold
yeah,
on, time out. I
a
just
lot
heard
of
like, oh,
a lot
I just removed a part of my knee and it did a half Ironman. Wasn't great, but I still did it. You do know that's not what most people do, right?
I mean, it's just like I had already trained for this race. I was ready for it, and uh, I knew I would be a little bit slower because of the surgery. But also, I don't like to pay for race insurance. So I was like, I'd lose a lot of money if I don't race. Um,
I didn't
and I
even
had
know
been
race
training for
insurance was a
months.
thing.
I had been training for like 6 months or so, and so I was like, no, I'm gonna do it.
Uh-huh.
And it's fine. And my surgeon and my physical therapist, like, we all came up with a plan to make sure that it was a smart move. And my surgeon, I worked really closely with him to ensure that that was a possibility for me.
Hmm.
And so then after that, I did a full Ironman. Then, and that would have been 20 May in 2018.
Hmm.
And after that, kind of just took a little bit of time off, where just still in the triathlon world working out, but wanted to give myself a little bit break
Hmm.
from the intense training. And I had planned
Yeah.
to yeah, yeah. So in 2019, I had 2 half Ironmans scheduled and signed up for. So I was going to do Boulder, which would have been in the
Mhm.
springtime, and then Arizona in the fall. And I was training for that and was having a really, really terrible pain. So I went back to my surgeon, thinking I would just get a cortisone shot.
Mhm.
And they did some x-rays and realized that essentially my whole shin had stress fractures throughout all of it, and that if I kept working out I could just shatter my leg because my knee wasn't doing anything. It was all of the running weight was just going into my
Right.
shin. Yeah, so then they said, okay, this is really bad, you're really young, so what we'll have to do is a transplant. And
A
so
transplant of what? Of your shin?
of my knee.
Hold up. Okay, so now we went to, oh, I lost a part of my knee, did have an Ironman to, let's just get a brand new one and put it in.
Yeah, I had
So,
never heard of that.
okay, so hold up, time out because
Yeah.
I'm an uneducated swine when it comes to knee surgeries. Okay, so when they say they're gonna get you a new knee, is it like I guess like a fake one, or is it like no, let's just rob a grave and put the new one in, like or
Yeah,
stem cells? Like how does that work?
so I'm 26 right now. So last year was 25,
Mhm.
and they won't put in a fake knee because they won't last. And they said realistically, they'll start doing that 55 and up, and that's even young. But really, those individuals are wearing it out already. They said if you put that into a 25-year-old, you'll wear through it in 3 years because there's just so much more
Activity.
walking activity that you're doing as a
Okay.
young person. And so then what they do instead, which I had never heard of, was it's a transplant from a donor. And so you get put on a transplant waiting list. So all last summer, I couldn't work out at all and was on this waiting list probably for about 3.5, 4 months. And then they give you a call on Monday and say, "Hey, we found a donor. We're going to go in on Wednesday."
Okay. So wow. All right.
It's a
Was
lot.
not expecting that. Okay. So have you gotten your new knee?
Yes. So that
Okay.
happened all the last week of August of last year.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's just been a slow, slow recovery,
Hmm.
and really was barely because I couldn't walk on it for about a month to 2 months, just
Right.
purely crutches, wheelchair, and because they change out a lot of. I mean, it's a very intense surgery. I think it was about 8 hours,
Uh huh.
just because also I've had so many other surgeries, they have to be very careful.
Mm.
Um, and then, yeah, and then once I started to get back into workouts, I wanted to find something I could do where all of my friends do these endurance workouts that I can no longer really be a part of, where I
Hmm.
can't go for, a 15-mile run right now. I can't even run for 15 minutes. So
I. Well,
for me, even
sorry,
a
my
bike
gag
ride,
reflex came in when I heard cardio somewhere in the air.
yeah,
No. Okay. I personally hate running with a passion of 1,000 sun. I rather if there was a method of run by death by running, and if I was like a convict, that would be I guess that's what it would put on to me. I don't like it. I don't know one as a ex like college athlete in soccer how you could do so much running. Second, again the knee replacement and then these half Ironman. I'm like, this sounds no. That doesn't just it's not for me personally. I mean, I am incredibly impressed that you're like, let's do that. Also, when I'm missing a chunk of my knee and I have a brand new knee. So I have now 50,000 questions happening regarding this. But okay, so let's break it down to like the first thing. So recovery, is it going okay right now?
yeah. So I mean, it just kind of ebbs and flows. And so, really, when I started CrossFit in December, I mean, I was really working with Matt and Butters because I couldn't do anything, right? Like, I
Mhm.
can only do upper body stuff. Like, I was barely squatting with no weight. My knee just didn't have any of that mobility yet, to where I am now, which it's like I feel pretty fit. So, but however, in the past couple weeks, it's been really bad. And so it just kind of ebbs and flows, where
Mm.
I went to the surgeon last week because when we did Murph for Memorial Day, I mean, I was able to run both miles. That was completely the first time I ran a full mile without having to stop or walking. And so I did it both times. So I was really excited. And then ever since then, and I don't think it's because of that day, but
Mm.
that's the last time in my head that I can remember.
Mm.
Um, it's gotten really bad where now I'm at a place where I can't even walk a mile. So now we're kind of like back to the drawing board. I went
Mm.
back to the surgeon. They said everything's fine. Where now there's just, because there's just so many screws in my knee, they've drilled into all the bones so much that they think that's where all the pain's coming from. And
Yeah,
so
I would think so if I have metal in my knee from screws. Oh, Jesus. Okay, got it. Got it. Okay. So, all right, that's intense. So here's my question to you, right? Like with the whole recovery and like obviously this thing, are you and like I recently talked to Sonia, who's kind of like a front line on like in the hospital kind of thing. So my question is like, have you been worried that since your surgery, like you might be a little bit more quote unquote compromised because you just recently got a new piece of equipment on your in your body kind of thing, and you're still healing and recovering. I'm sure your body's taking a lot of energy trying to get that situated. Do you feel like a little bit more worried or anything like that regarding, like the whole COVID is like, oh no, I just got surgery. I'm more prone to possibly getting something?
Not really. I would say not because of that. At the beginning of COVID, I have asthma. It's
Mm-hmm.
not crazy bad, but it's definitely not good. So
Mm-hmm.
at first I was a little bit nervous with that, but I've just also kind of come to realize where I feel like I'm a very healthy person. So it's more, I think, me trying to protect others by being smart and safe. Where I do think if I were to get COVID, I think I would be fine and be able to handle it and deal with it, hopefully. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully I don't get it. I'm trying to, take as many precautions, but more to protect other people than I would say
Right.
my.
Gotcha. So of all the different things of like you went from just working from being a soccer player to an Ironman, holy cow, to how did you find CrossFit? What was the uh, attractive thing to CrossFit to you that like I was like, oh, this seems fun, or or why free range, I guess, like what attracted you to the gym? Because there's a lot of there's a lot of CrossFit gyms and stuff like that. So what was it, I guess, that like kind of attracted you to that as a free range atmosphere?
The short answer is I live across the street.
Oh, well, that's
So,
fair. And
um,
short distance too, so that makes sense.
yeah, because after I did my Ironman, I was trying to switch up my training just because I felt like I put so much time and energy into distance running, and I'm a short person, and soccer is built off sprints and a lot of building endurance through sprinting, jogging, walking, and
Mhm.
kind of that type of model. And so for endurance racing, as much as I love it, I don't think that that's the best place for my body,
Mhm.
but hopefully I'll get back to it and continue it just because I do enjoy it.
Mhm.
Um,
Or
so
rugby. You could do
maybe
rugby.
maybe. And so then I actually was going to a different CrossFit gym in the Valley, maybe in I think 2018 over the summer for a little bit. I think I just found them through one of my triathlon friends was going. But it just didn't quite, the location really didn't work out for me because they didn't really have showers there for work.
Mhm.
And for me, I have to look really professional for work. And so there was just never a way that I could get there easily, take a shower after a morning class and then get to work on time, or at night the class I would either have to leave or work early, and it just was not working out for my schedule because of the
Mhm.
distance. And so then in December I really wanted to get back into working out, and once again I couldn't really work out with my good friends that are doing all these endurance training. And so I said, oh well, maybe I can get back into CrossFit, then I have at least people to work out with, even if
Mhm.
I can't do quite what they're doing. So I looked up CrossFit gyms online and saw one was across the street. And I mean, I think I've seen people running too around the building when I've been out on a run or whatever, but I just didn't even realize it was
Mhm.
there. And then that's been it ever since.
Gotcha. So that's a short answer. The long answer is like, okay, so now that you've been, like obviously it's a distance and everything like that, is there like, comparing the environment from like the first gym, and you don't have to name names or anything like that, but but like you're to free range, is the atmosphere different, or do they still feel like a sense of community, or what's up?
I would say they're pretty similar. This is the third, probably fourth CrossFit gym I've gone to. Just
Hmm.
I went to one in my hometown, and then one closer to my college, and then the other one in Phoenix, and this one. And I would say all of them have been awesome. I really think that people who do CrossFit tend to be really community oriented. Also, I'm a pretty outgoing person, so I have no problem going into a place that I don't know people and introducing myself and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, so I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I've really, really liked the community here at Free Range. I think this is definitely the longest I've ever been at a CrossFit gym other than my
Hmm.
hometown one. And so I think too, with time, you just start to get to know people a little bit better.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, yeah, I really love it here, but I've always found people who do CrossFit to just be really kind, really welcoming, and pretty enthusiastic about helping you in any way possible.
Gotcha. So okay, so now the first question that pops to my mind is that since he came from like I mean, as a first of all, how did you get here? Like, obviously, I came here for school, but you were done with school and you kind of moved out in Arizona. Why? Like, what was the reason for the move?
So I moved for grad school for
Mhm.
ASU, but also while I was in my undergrad, my parents moved here.
Okay.
And so I had never thought of Arizona. It was never on my mind. I really love the East Coast. I thought I would move to a bigger city like Philly, Pittsburgh, DC,
Hmm.
Baltimore kind of areas. And when my parents moved out here for work, I just started to visit them. Both my brothers and I, we would visit them for holidays.
Hmm.
And I just started to really enjoy it, really loved the weather. And so then the summer between my junior and senior year, I spent the whole summer out here by the pool recovering from my surgery and just kind of really loved Arizona. So I knew I wanted to get my master's right away,
Hmm.
and was looking up different schools, and ASU had an awesome program about nonprofit leadership. And so it was a little bit more specific than an MBA for what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So it just really seemed like a perfect fit.
Gotcha. So now touching what the other thing that came up to my mind was when you coming from a background of kind of like would be considered kind of like elite, like athleticism, being in like soccer, like I mean, if you're like a college athlete and and you're playing, you're not sitting on the bench, you got to be some sort of level of fitness, right? To then going to doing like triathlons, which is a whole different beast altogether, to now going through, you recovering through your injuries. How like is there like a part of you inside your head it's like you miss those days that maybe one day you can achieve that elite level fitness again at one point, or or you're like you understand like, hey, that was a different part of time, or you're like, I'm still gonna go for it kind of thing. So
I think my personality is always like, oh, I can 100% get back there.
okay.
But realistically, I mean, I think it's so hard where, yeah, in college, I mean, I was definitely at my fittest, definitely way skinnier and could run for miles, probably a lot faster. But I didn't have any surgeries until my senior year. So I got
Hmm.
to play 3 years with really, I mean, no injuries or
Hmm.
minimal injuries.
Hmm.
And so, and now it's very interesting because every year I have had a surgery for the past 5 years.
Hmm.
So every year I feel like I'm getting to a place of fitness and then it all goes away
Like
again.
it resets. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it so? I mean, because it's been 5 years in a row, is it affecting you like mentally? Like are you expecting to have kind of like, oh, I'm gonna have surgery again. There's gonna be an off season kind of thing happening, or is it like, or is it like frustrating? I'm sure like. I mean, I can't imagine because I'm not obviously in your headspace and things of that sort, or have the background. But does it like become frustrating year after year after year that something like that's happening, or you're like accepted it's part of it in the long term game it'll be beneficial kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I'm a pretty optimistic person. Also, I think maybe after the third time, it was like, all right, whatever, we know the drill. My mom jokes because we have a routine. And even my fifth surgery, my parents were on vacation and they were like, can you have a friend pick you up? Where it's just not a big deal anymore. Where, yeah, it definitely can be frustrating. This past week when I went to the surgeon, in my head, I was like, I know I'm going to have another surgery. Just, I feel like I know my body very well. So I know what levels of pain I can handle. And I operate at a level 7 pain. And so when I'm at a 9.5, it's like, to me, when I went to the doctor, it was like, well, what other solution could possibly be?
Right.
And, that wasn't the case. He didn't say that. So we're trying some other options right now.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, it definitely is the first thing that comes to mind is like,
Mhm.
okay, something's messed up. Let's go get it checked out. And this is the first time I've gone to see a surgeon and not been told I need surgery. Um,
Well, that's great,
yeah, so I
right?
was very happy. But so yeah, I don't know. I think at this point it's just like for me, I even last year when I found out this was the case and really was not expecting that to be what I needed. It was like, okay, cool, let's get it done as soon as possible. Let's move forward.
Mhm.
Where I think just if I were to let it wear me down every time, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be working out right now. And I think you come to different things and trying to push through as quickly as possible, where that's always my goal after surgery is to be working out as soon as possible in whatever capacity that allows.
Mhm.
Where if that's just doing crunches on the floor of my apartment or whatever that is, I have learned that if I'm not working out, my endorphins get really low and I'll start to get down. But
Mhm.
if I can work out as quickly as possible, I also will go to a lot of high yoga classes and just be in the room and do whatever 2 poses I can do.
Mhm.
But I'm sweating. I feel like I'm working out. It almost like tricks my body into being like, oh, we did a workout today. So I feel like now I don't want to call myself a pro at surgery recovery, but for my own self, I
Right.
know what I need. I have my shopping list for the week before of everything that I'm going to need for that next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where I mean, it's a routine,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
Hopefully, it'll last for a while.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, you got a game plan going and stuff like that. Okay, gotcha. So, so I guess like, were you a couple of things I want? I keep having so many questions now. So, okay. So first, before I forget this question, and I keep jumping off topics, and that's totally my fault. Okay. So what did you learn, like, or have from the three disciplines of like work that you've done, which is soccer, triathlons, and then CrossFit? Has there been anything? What is something that you learned uniquely from those three different practices?
Mm, that's tough. Learned about myself or skill set wise,
It
or
could be something about yourself. It could be something skill set wise. There's so many different things, and if you don't have one, that's fine too. I'm just kind of curious because those are the first two are like they all have a comment of like it's something physical and you're absorbing to it, but one's a team sport. One is very much solo, and another one's it's solo, but it has a very team atmosphere.
yeah, yeah, it's really interesting, kind of where from soccer into triathlons, even into any kind of racing like that. I remember when I ran my first half marathon after college, and other people were like supporting you and helping you, and it was very odd to me where it's like I knew I wasn't there to win or anything like that, but I come from a world where we were very competitive. If you saw another team, like you did not like that team, you did not like anyone on the team, and almost like hyped yourself up about competitiveness towards other people to then go into the triathlon racing world where everyone is so kind. Like it really does remind me a lot about CrossFit, where even though you're doing your own race and you want to do the best you're going to do, people are so supportive of each other throughout the whole race. People are cheering each other on, especially during like the long distances, like a half Ironman or an Ironman. You're seeing the same people constantly. And so you get so excited when you see them, a half an hour later. You're like, oh my gosh, there you are. You're doing great. And it kind of does remind me like of a CrossFit workout. You know, if you're out on a run and you see someone, it's like, oh, keep it up. Like there is
Mhm.
that team aspect that we're all suffering through this together.
Mhm.
But I think like the thread that is common for me, or at least soccer has helped me really build kind of a mental toughness. And I think that has really allowed me to succeed a lot in life, not only just in athletic worlds, but when I got into the triathlon world, to me it was like I always have believed in myself, and it comes kind of, it stems from all the soccer training
Mhm.
where I have some friends and stuff that would get very nervous on race day or really think they're not going to be able to finish. And I have always been able to kind of find this push any negative thoughts out and just be like, nope, today's the best day. It's going to be a really fun day. Um, where actually my first gym that I went to in Pennsylvania, they used to every single day, we'd look at the workout and they would just say, easy day, whatever it is, easy day. And that kind of became like a little motto for me, where even in the summers when we had fitness testing and stuff, you know, I tried to always be the positive teammate, the encouraging
Mhm.
teammate, everyone's cheerleader, like, oh, we're all going to pass today. Like, it's an
Mhm.
easy day, no problem. And kind of carry that into triathlons. And I carry that into any CrossFit workout where it's like, there's, you know, workouts that I'll look at that I'm like, oh, I don't really like those moves, but like, okay, no problem. Easy day. I'll do it.
Yeah, there's still a couple of moves for me. I'm like, yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. As
Oh,
a short stack person, fellow short people, I hate wall balls without so
yeah.
much. There's, God, Butters. I don't know how you love him so much. F- was like, for those who don't know, Butters is like one of our coaches here at Free Range kind of thing. So okay, so now going back into more life stuff. Due to COVID, how are you still able, like, how has your work being affected, right? Because you say like you used to go out all the time and now you're like, well, crap.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely changed really dramatically. I think all fundraisers right now are trying to figure out what the world is going to look like.
Mhm.
Where I just think that even if I have a phone call or a Zoom meeting with a donor or somebody that I'm working with, me taking them to lunch, it just builds more of a relationship, and that's really what fundraising is relationship building. Where if I take them to lunch with a student and we are there, you know, for an hour and a half, we're able to talk about that person's kids, where they're from, all the little things that help you build relationships with people and connect them with that student who then, you know, talks about their history, and you find out maybe they both went to the same undergrad and now they have a particular bond. Where now I think the world has shifted where people will take a call, but they'll want it to be quick in 15 minutes. And so I can get some information across, but just not in the same way that I
Mhm.
was able to for an hour and a half. And I think additionally at the beginning, you know, we're trying to be really sensitive where we don't want to say our needs are the most important needs and our students are the most important needs that you should be fundraising or funding them. There was kind of a gap where we were trying to figure out how to be as sensitive as possible. And I still
Mhm.
think, you know, we're still trying to find that balance where we know some of our donors have lost their jobs or don't have childcare right now or are really struggling,
Mhm.
and really trying to find ways to one authentically help them. I think that's the positive I've really been able to see, is that being at the law school, we have so much to offer for the community. We have a lot of community programs. We do, you know, free legal services for anyone in Phoenix. um, we're working on so much research for the community and the country right now. And so we're now able to offer help to people who have supported us. And so that has been really cool to, you know, call someone and just offer our assistance rather than asking them for a donation. But it's definitely shifted a lot. And I don't know, you know, the next time I'll be able to have lunch with a donor in person. I don't know what that
Mhm.
will look
Yeah, that's one thing I've kind of noticed since like everything that's happened. I feel like this whole COVID thing and the pandemic has kind of been a little bit of a reset button. So it has definitely, like, changed things where, like, community, and also like that what things are meaning more than usual. So like,
Yeah.
like even just like, hey, like I said, like I've seen a lot of people kind of do like um kind of, it's weird. Like I've seen a couple of neighbors, not where I'm at, but I've seen from like other neighborhoods that have done like curbside services. Like they'll just drop off something for their neighbors and kind of like ding dong ditch and like leave. And then like, and yeah, there's a lot of arguments like, oh my god, they might have COVID on the thing and whatnot. I'm like, guys, come on. Um,
Thought,
yeah,
yeah.
but like the thought that counts kind of thing. And I've seen there's a lot more like community outreach, especially in these tougher times for, like we're probably seeing the highest unemployment rate we've ever seen ever, period, which is insane, to, all these things. And now we're in, with all these different systems that we've in place trying to like compensate for things. It's nice to see that people are donating their time throughout these things to kind of like make things work. So that
Yeah.
is definitely something I've seen in the community base that like that has that's been nice to see. It's like I said, a reset button of like we are kind of like reflecting ourselves into what's going on.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So, with that said, what is something that you've learned about yourself throughout this whole thing?
Well, let's see. I think that I have learned that I can live without other people. Where I think at first, I was really nervous. I know how much I need people in my life, and I'm Italian, so like I hug all of my friends. I'm always around all of my friends. I'm very touchy. And so for a long time, I was really nervous. I thought it was really going to affect me. Um, but I have been doing really okay with it. And I think it's kind of just diving into other things. Like I've really picked up a lot of different things. I bought a bunch of coloring books. Been doing some meditating and journaling and just kind of putting other things into my life. And so then that way I'm continuing to stay busy. And I've had, yeah, a lot of Zoom happy hours, a lot of Zoom communication with my friends. And it's been really great to kind of see how some of my friendship circles have come together where we're all in a similar boat. And so trying to figure all of that out together.
Gotcha. Zoom happy hour. I really need to do that. That sounds pretty good, actually. I'm like, guys, get on your Wi-Fi. Let's go. Okay,
Yeah, it's
so,
really
so I feel like I don't know why I thought like I feel like I feel like you would need a dog for some reason during this whole thing, like a puppy or something like that. It's like then you have always something to just like be super happy and like energy, and then you can express energy. But also, all shelters are probably have run dry because like I see
I
like
so.
everyone's just like puppies. I'm like, oh my god, there's no animals to be adopted, which is great, which is
Right.
great. Like resolution, I'm like, oh my god, what just happened, kind of thing. Okay,
Honey.
so okay, so you okay, so out of all the different things that you have taken like as a good habit and stuff like that, which one, either in this rotation or whatnot that you're working on, or which one has been like the thing is like, yeah, like it's been like surprisingly more fun than you expect.
I would say journaling, where that I've never been a writer. I've never really seen myself, and I'm the type of person that will go down to write and be like, I don't know what to talk about. But it's interesting because on one of my podcasts, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they were talking about how unique this time in the world is, and just journaling, just for yourself, for your future thoughts, to remember kind of what this time really was like for you. And I thought that was really interesting.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just something to think about. So that it's been really nice. Kind of right before I go to bed, I'll just jot down some notes. And sometimes it's really long where I won't even think that I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. And then I'll write 3 pages. And then other times I'll write 5 sentences and call it a day.
Gotcha. Do you think once things passes over and what and you future Hallie looks back in this crazy time, what
Yeah.
is do you think like something should be like, man, like what do you think will be something that's going to stood out in your mind as future Hallie when she reflects back on this 2020 year?
Um, No. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a really good question. I think I mean, I just anytime I think about it, it just feels so unreal. And I feel like it's so strange to me where it's like, still, what will the fall look like for us going back to work and stuff? But I think it just really also has given everyone a time to recalibrate connect with people that maybe you don't live here. I have a lot of friends on the East Coast. And so for me, it's been really great because now I'm home more. So I have a lot more time to connect with people who live in different time zones than I do. So I definitely really appreciate that. And it has allowed me to really touch base with a lot of people that I usually don't get to talk to.
Gotcha. Do you think with journaling, because you find it's been surprisingly a good new thing in your life, do you think you'll carry that over also towards like for future?
I think so. I hope so. Especially, I think the same with journaling and meditating, both of them have always felt overwhelming because I think I've put expectations of, oh, you have to do it for this long, or it has to be so much work. And now that I've been doing it, it really doesn't feel that way. Where it's like, oh, if I'm not really in a mood once I start writing, I don't have to write 5 pages. It doesn't matter. And so I think that in my mind is always running it with like 100 miles an hour at all times. And so I think at night, just to stop and kind of reflect and take time to slow down just is helpful. So
Hmm.
I do see myself carrying that forward.
Gotcha. Let me see. So many things. I was like, holy cow. Okay. So with that said, with like journaling, what else is there that in this uncertain time that you want to try? Because I've seen so many people pick up like different hobbies and whatnot, whether it's like be fitter or trying to do new things. What is like the next thing on your queue that you want to try before like this whole like pandemic like kind of like backs off whenever that does happen?
I just started driving yesterday for Postmates, so I
Okay.
guess that's my new hobby. Where I started to look at houses and thinking about buying a townhouse or a house
Hmm.
next year. And so I was like, well, what else am I doing at night? I'm not doing anything. So, and usually I would be hiking every single night, but
Hmm.
now with my knee, I can't do that. So I've kind of been like, oh, well, let me just throw my time and energy into making some extra money.
There you go. That's good. Like for sure. Like I've done some delivery service thing. I'm like, it's okay. For me, it was just like I'm so tired of like food. Like I see it all the time, and I eat all the time too. So I'm like, this is gonna ruin my relationship with food because I'll smell in the car. I'm like, this tastes
Yeah.
so good, and now just like, and then I end up craving bad food, and it's just a downward spiral. Okay, so what was it that we just talked about? Oh my god, I hate it when I get brain farts. Is what I
Trying
call it
out
when you have.
different things. I've also been trying different, like I tried intermittent fasting, and I've
Mhm.
been liking that. So kind of trying really
Ever
anything. I'm
anything.
always try stuff.
Gotcha. I've been also been looking into getting into like a house like next year, and like the
Oh,
whole like freaking like house market is insane right now. Like I'm like I don't even know. I just like this is like 50. It's too much. It's not that it's too much. It's just like with everything is literally and kind of like talking to like with Kelly and Sonia and stuff like that recently. It was just like things are always dynamically changing,
yeah,
so we don't know what things are going to be like from down this road kind of thing.
definitely.
So yeah, but yeah, so okay, so houses and stuff like that. What is what is it that is it about home ownership that excites you? Is it because like it's like, yeah, screw you, rent, I can build equity. Is that what it is? Or is it like, no, I want my own home and I can make it whatever I want kind of thing?
I would say definitely the first. I mean, I think one, it's funny because a book I was reading, they were talking about how women tend to want to own homes because in the past that hasn't been an option. So a lot more, independent, like single women are buying houses before 30, which I was like, oh, that's really fascinating. I never thought of it that way.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say it's definitely like fresh. I've lived here for 4 years now. I paid rent every single year where it's like, well, I know I want to live here. I know I'm going to continue living here. Why not own something and
Mhm.
I'd rather have money be going towards that and then maybe like as an investment property in the future.
Mhm.
So if I buy a townhouse or a condo now, live in that for a few years and then switch to a house and then rent it out, or vice versa,
Right.
having some property.
Gotcha. Is there so like do you have like in your mind like your dream home? Like if money was not an issue, do you have like a dream home in your mind?
It definitely has to have a pool. That's all I care about.
just a pool, just
Cool.
water, a
Yeah.
hole with water.
Yeah.
Like, do you want like a canopy over it so you don't die from the 50,000 degrees of heat, or do you want it like something like that?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not really picky. It's funny because I bought a car last year. Mine broke down and I had to buy a new one. And I was just like, I don't care. Like,
You
I'll,
just needed a
whatever.
sunroof. That's what you needed.
No, no, not even. I was like, whatever, my dad and like my friends were like, oh, you should get this car. It's really cool. And I was like, well, whatever will get me there safely and is not crazy expensive. And
Gotcha.
I feel like that's kind of how I'm looking at houses. Like, okay, well, here's my price range. And so I guess whatever would be nice in that and has a pool.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So that's the only requirement for like your dream house. It's really not even the house itself, it's just a hole with water. Got it.
Yeah. And location. I don't want to live too far.
That's as we can tell from free range as like the easy answer. Just like,
I walk to free range.
oh my god. Ugh. I hate walking. No, actually, I don't. I'm just like, I've been dealing with like plantar fasciitis in my right foot, so it's been kind of like bugging me. I'm like, in like, I'm sure if Butter's ever here, just like, have you done the stretches, Alex? I'm like, yes. I just still hate it anyways. Okay, got it.
Have you
So,
tried the like night what are they called? Like you like put your foot in them and sleep in them.
are you talking about toe spreaders or like the socks that has a little bit like go over your toes?
They have like they're kind of if you just put in plantar fasciitis, I guess braces.
Uh huh.
Um, so I had really bad plantar fasciitis when I was playing soccer because all soccer cleats are like pretty flat.
Hmm.
And the only thing that ever saved me was these like braces that you would like essentially just keeps your foot in a particular position to stretch it while you're sleeping.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. I might have to look into that. Okay.
Yeah, they're
So
really good. Like,
So, beside once things go quote unquote back to normal, what is something that you've been dying to be able to do again?
hug all my friends.
Like have a real live happy hour, like where you're not 6 foot pole away from each other?
Yeah, 100%.
Gotcha.
That's where it's like, yes, I will just hug all of my friends for very long periods of time.
Gotcha. Like do like a was it a cheese night with like a charcuterie board and just like
Yeah,
wine and cheese? It's just like
whatever. I mean, I'm the type of person where I just care about being with people where I could care less what we do, what I do,
gotcha.
where and I think that's also like one of the reasons like I would love to have a house where I'll have people over my apartment, but I mean it's just small and it's hard where like I love to host people. I love to just bring people together and be
Mhm.
with all the people I love. So as soon as that is able, I'm definitely gonna do it.
Nice, nice. Okay, gotcha. So just basically host nights and like hang out with your friends. Nice.
Yes.
So like, okay, so right now you're kind of like just keeping yourself busy with like different activities until this kind of like this goes over and everything like that. Okay, this is an interesting question. Like, I just thought of like, what do you think, in your opinions, the future will be like in
Oh,
next year? Yeah.
like 2021.
Yeah, because elections coming up and stuff like
Oh,
that. So not it's not even like trying to get political, right? But like we are seeing a massive, massive shift into like what the world is going to be like.
I know.
So
I mean, it's definitely going to be really different.
mhm,
Where I do think a lot of companies will have people working from home significantly more. I've learned for myself that I will not apply for any job that is from home.
mhm,
Where it's funny because before I went to ASU, I was looking at jobs that were remote and I was like, I could do that. Where now I have learned I cannot do this full time. I like flexibility. So typically I could always work from home one day here, wherever.
mhm,
So I like the flexibility, but full time I think is just too much for me.
mhm,
But yeah, I really think that that's going to continue. I'm really interested to see how higher education changes. I mean, some schools have already closed, where that's a nice thing about being at ASU. I think ASU they won't close, but they're trying to be as innovative as possible, and so they're starting a hybrid model
mhm,
so you can watch the class live stream via Zoom or go in person.
mhm,
And then, for instance, if you're not feeling great that day, you just don't go to class and you watch the live stream. And so, where there's already been a huge push for online education, But I'm a big believer in being on campus. I think just having that community, especially during the ages of 18 to 22, you learn so much about yourself when you're on a campus, when you're away from home. Um, so I'm a big believer in going to class or going to a campus
Hmm.
in person. But I am very interested to see what this hybrid model brings for future education. I think that will be very, very different.
I agree. I think there's definitely more for the school system. I think, like, I think it's hard, especially depending on the ages. I think because Kelly is like a first grade teacher, right? So like those kids and to function as basic human beings, I think it's hard for them to be like like being online because and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely easier for kids to be like, I think it'd be more beneficial for kids of younger age to be like more in that like community environment, whether it's actually a school or whatnot. I think the hybrid model works better for, like, for like working like doing some at school, some at home kind of thing. I think even if it was to apply to kids, I think, maybe instead of doing the 5 days a week, do 4 days a week kind of thing. And then the kids can be with their parents a little bit more. Maybe parents will enjoy that, or maybe they'll just hire more nannies. So that's also an option too. I think a lot of workplaces are going to be downsizing, in my opinion, from coming into the insurance kind of like thing. It's, I think, strategically speaking through this thing is like when we realize so many people can still operationally like work well from home, and it's not for everybody. I totally get that. But if you can work from home, then there's going to be, I think, overhead spaces are going to close down to maybe smaller offices. And then there's going to be, like, or at least a very hybrid where like you can sign up how many people we have in an office area kind of thing. So it is going to be very interesting, but, I
I think
think
that
it's going to be like that.
I think the childcare portion too will be really different. Where that's really
Oh,
what
yeah.
I'm into. Where I mean, I think after 2008, there were like so many different apps and companies that started and launched,
Mhm,
and so I do think like there's going to be a lot of innovation, and I
mhm,
really think childcare might be one of those sectors
mhm,
where now many families have both parents are working,
mhm.
and so if parents have to go back to work, but then your children are at home to be educated, what will that world look like? And it'll be really interesting to see kind of how they adapt. Where I used to work for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and so I'm still a big sister. And I think of the families that my little sister and her friends, where those schools aren't really going to have the funds to be able to put in infrastructure to make sure that they can come back safely, which then means that those families will probably have to be the kids will have to be learning from home to be safe. But
Mhm,
then those are the parents that their parents are working maybe at Starbucks or at the grocery store or multiple jobs that are in person,
mhm.
where they don't have the flexibility like I do to say, oh, I'm gonna work from home because I have a kid.
Mhm.
And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how this really impacts childcare in different levels of income. Um, and that's one of my bigger fears.
Yeah, that's, I think, what I think could possibly happen is that kind of like, I think technology and innovation is probably going to be a time that's going to be right around the corner to like adapt to these times. I think this might become something kind of like, with Uber and Lyft when it's kind of like community pool or even like Airbnb. So
Yeah,
it could very well be that, there might be some sort of community pool that is, hey, I can tutor your kids for this amount of rate and help with education for a cheaper rate than it would be for a tutor or whatnot,
yeah,
like it could be something of that route too. I am excited to see what kind of technological like innovation is going to happen to things too, and I'm also kind of curious on how like some industries are going to like evolve to around that, because that's
yeah.
like, it's crazy. So but yeah, I think also like in the job market wise, because now the possibility of working from home is much more on the table. I think
Yeah.
that also branches out that there's more opportunity in a weird way.
Oh,
So
definitely.
i'm
Yeah,
i'm excited to see that.
and it'll be interesting to see how the market comes back when jobs start to really hire once again.
Hmm.
Are the older population or the people who've been working for longer going to get and they'll take any job because they'll take a job. And then that means maybe some younger, less experienced employees who were laid off, they won't have opportunities to take jobs, and then they'll be, unemployed for even longer. It'll be interesting to kind of see how that slowly comes back to normal too.
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, it's like I said, it's literally, it's kind of like we have to take it day by day, week by week, and just see where it goes. There's no master plan. I kind of threw that as a window like a long time. I'm like, well, it's kind of like watching the world burn behind you, but you're like underwater and just like shrug
Okay.
kind of thing. Kind of that's kind of thing. On a
Yeah.
happier note, is there like since like okay, especially we're in the state of Arizona, which has become like one of the worst states.
The worst. It was like worse in the world last week.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, okay, so now there's been a lot of different like parts of our world that has now like mandatory mask, right?
Yeah.
In this time of recording, which is June 23rd, 2020, our coach has decided to put mask application into it. I completely understand it, and I have no problem with it, to be honest. It does make cardio workouts a bitch. Holy crap. Holy crap. I've also had more fun with it where I've this I'm gonna draw some inappropriate things on my mask just for fun and just see how that goes. So I guess my next question is like with all these safety and regulation, what have you done to make them more bearable? Have you done like done something goofy with it? Did you just like get like some fingerless gloves or whatever?
Um, No, I have not done anything crazy like that. I definitely, I mean, I just lean into it. Like, it's like, okay, cool. This will help. I'm a big about cardio, obviously, based on my background. So I'm like, the more cardio, the better. Where I'm now struggling because I don't have opportunities to do cardio. Where today, instead of jump roping, Butters had me on the punching bag in the back, and I love that. Where like, I'm just grateful.
Can I get that option?
I'm just grateful to have an option of cardio. And
Hmm.
so for me, the mask, like that helps me get extra cardio because I'm not getting that in my normal workouts.
Well, okay.
I
Why do you love cardio? This is something that befumbles my mind, right?
yeah.
I'm a former fat kid, sickly kid. I hate cardio. I have asthma. Maybe I'm just built to hate cardio, but what is it that's so great to you? Can you describe it?
I mean, no, I think, well, my belief is like that there's a workout for everyone that everyone will enjoy. And some people that don't really work out, I just think they haven't found what works for them.
Hmm.
Where maybe it's yoga, maybe it's, lifting or whatever. Where I think for me, I love CrossFit workouts because they really are kind of like short sprint workouts that are high intensity, but also get, cardio and lifting and all of that together and competitive. um, where I think for me too, cardio has always been a part of my background. And I think when you're playing a sport, especially when you're playing in college, like, having to run because you have to run is terrible. Where it was like, oh, like I have to do this workout. I don't want to do this workout. And you dread it all day. And then you do it because of your team or where you need to be fitness wise, or your coach made you do it. Where now the opportunity to like do it at your own pace and do whatever you want. It's like, oh, it's like freedom where it just opens it up a little bit more. And then I have just found like, oh, I really like this. And like, I do think like I can excel more in workouts that have more cardio. And so I like that too.
I think that you bring us a very interesting point because for me, I guess it was very much of like the I had to do thing forced to, and I couldn't control my own pace. That like really turned me out from like joining any type of sport kind of thing, just because I'm like it's like you must do this and this prep. I'm like you're sucking the fun out of this. That's why like maybe eating into it. The secondary question, the second thing and a question is if you could program a workout that like you would love, what would be some inkling parts of it besides the obvious of running if you didn't have a bum knee?
Yeah, definitely running. I would say long workout. Like I love the workouts that are like 20 plus minutes.
Okay.
Uh, um, yeah, I
W-
I don't really care what else. Like really that. That's
Well, okay, what
probably.
about body weight or like or your like any barbell?
I mean, I'm happy with either. Where it's, I mean, it's like hard right now. Like I'm biased because I'm like, well, I can't do anything.
Right.
So
Well, I mean, if you didn't have like that knee issue, you know.
yeah, I mean, I would say like where it's like I really liked the stuff we did at the park. I don't know how often you went at the park, and all of that mostly was body weight or kettlebell
Mhm.
or dumbbells without the barbells, and I really enjoyed that time. But I also like barbells too.
Mhm.
So I'm really open to whatever. I really like the kind of endurancey workouts
Mhm.
because I think too for me sometimes if a workout only lasts 10-11 minutes, like where I know that we worked out the whole hour, but I
Mhm.
still kind of am like, is that enough? Like, what do I need to be doing more? Where I'm just used to long workouts.
Mhm.
And so whenever I leave and it's like a long, 18, 20 plus minute workout, I'm like, oh, that was an awesome, awesome workout.
Gotcha. You're used to a buffet, but you're just getting portion controlled.
Yes. And so
Okay, got it.
sometimes I'm like, if I finish, even if it's a really, really hard 10-minute workout,
Mhm.
I'm still like, do I have to bike later? Am I going to have to elliptical or go for a hike? Where, I mean, it's like, I know it's in my head because I know, between the warm up and that we did work out also, but
Mhm.
still, uh, I have that number in my head.
Right. Is it so like what you like wanting to do, that extra work or whatnot? Is it for like just is there for a specific goal that you're working to, or is it more for the reason of like it helps you like chill out and kick those endorphins in?
I say both. I like I've learned about myself that I operate the best when I am very very busy all the time.
Hmm.
And so where that whatever that is, in the summers between college semesters and I was training, I would probably do 4 or 5 workouts a day because I didn't have a job. My job was to stay fit for soccer. And so I would wake up, go to yoga class, go run, go to CrossFit, go run, maybe go back to a CrossFit, like where I'm just used to multiple workouts. So then when Ironman training came in, almost every day I was doing a morning workout and evening workout.
Hmm.
So I think one of the reasons is habitual.
Hmm.
Another reason too is like I do feel very grateful to work out because I have always had that taken away from me for periods of time. And I think similar to what you were asking earlier, it's like there's always a level of like, well, I want to get back to this where like I would love to be the same weight I was in college, where it's like I don't know if that will ever be a possibility, where it's like I joke, I think I've been trying to lose weight since I was born. Like that's just my life. Uh, like I've just always been kind of like a thicker, more muscular person, and I think
Hmm.
as a female that can be really hard. Where now it's like I embrace it, but I think always it's like, oh, well, I'll just keep working out.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like I've learned from myself like that the more I'm working out, just the better I feel. So it's
Hmm.
like other than my knee, I've learned
Gotcha.
that
Right.
doesn't feel
Has,
good,
so
but
like
the rest.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just the rest. Yeah, like all the endorphins, like I just feel good about myself.
Hmm.
If I'm working out a lot, I'll eat a lot healthier.
Hmm.
The days that I like am kind of lazy and don't want to work out, like then I'm like, oh, I don't mind having pizza. But if I had 2 workouts that day, I'm always like, oh, I want salmon, I want a salad.
Hmm.
I because I know I'm fueling for another workout. It's just a different kind of mentality.
Gotcha. Has there, and that's something I like, I'm walking to dangerous territory I'm about to go
Okay.
to, which
Okay.
is female body acceptance.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm going that zone.
Oh boy.
So, okay, so, like for me as a former fat kid, and stuff like that, I used to be quite overweight actually. It was bad, but thanks to free range of learning, everything, I've gotten better, So like I'm happier, a much happier place. When was it that, or if you mentioned that you've accepted, you're
Yeah.
like more muscular girl, like how, was there a moment, was it just years through all this type of training that you kind of just accepted like this is me and I'm okay with it, or like fuck yeah, I'm awesome kind of thing?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if any female always will ever get to a place where they 100% accept it at all times.
Hmm.
Where I think it just ebbs and flows, and I think like it always has and probably always will. Where it's like yeah, like some months or weeks or whatever, it's like you're like, oh, I don't care, whatever. And then you'll go and have a day where you're like, oh my God, why? This is terrible. Where I saw something that was like, anytime you feel bad about yourself, like make a list of all the companies that are profiting off of that. And I was like,
Oh, okay.
real. Like so many
Jesus.
companies profit off
Yeah.
of women feeling insecure. And
Hmm.
so where it's like a funny thing, but also you're like, oh right, I was trained to think this way. Like
Hmm.
that's um
Do
yeah.
you think so? Like that's my thing. Like I don't know. Me as a guy, I feel that I've accepted my body pretty like recently. Like I think there's always gonna be issues with guys like I used to have a Napoleon complex. I wish I was like 5'8". Now
Sure.
I'm 5'5". I'm like I fucking love my height. It's super great and I love it kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
think like so I think. However, I will say it's like for females and stuff like that, it's definitely like a million times harder, right?
Mhm.
Is it because do you think of like media or anything like that is always like in the highlight, like showing off like these kind of thing and trying to like in a weird sense in a weird sense pray for like that look and whatnot, or and especially now like with everything that's happening, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm gonna get my COVID-20 on, or or there it's literally as a joke of either like I'm gonna get shredded or I'm just gonna get fatter kind of thing.
Right.
But what do you think from a female perspective, and obviously it's different for everyone, but why do you think is it that it's hitting females so much more to accept themselves in comparison to like guys?
I mean, I think it starts at a really, really young age where it's like, I think that the media is better. Like, there are a lot of more positive things now, where when I was growing up, and like, I mean, that's, it's just weird to think back where you're like, oh, I think it was more the media then, or it's like they all Barbie dolls were really skinny. And then it became, oh, you should be like that's what girls should be is really skinny. I think like that was really pushed on, and it starts at a really young age. I think it's all subconscious, like no one is really trying to force that, but like I don't know, even in middle school, I think those kind of concepts really come into a female's mind, and they're taught that, and like, oh, boys will like you if you're skinny and all these other things where it hasn't been embraced, like, oh, you can be strong.
Hmm.
And so I hope for like my future children, or children now, that maybe that is a little bit less. I
Hmm.
don't know if we'll ever get away from it, but I really think like that developmentally becomes into existence at such a young age that I think you have to work very hard as an individual. Like I've had to work very hard as an individual to be like, nope, whatever. Like similar to you with your height. Like, okay, cool. Like that's just not, I'm never going to look like that. And that's
Hmm.
fine. And I'm cool with that. I don't want to. But I think you have to do that work individually and push out a lot of other factors.
Hmm. I'll definitely say that thanks to like CrossFit, especially like at free range and the environment that we're in, like I've never felt more comfortable in my body, like period. Like I went from 225 to 165 in a year.
Wow.
To yeah, it was a big drop. To then like now I'm like 195, but I feel like the happiest I've ever been, just
Yeah.
because it just feels good. Like,
Yeah.
and also I love pizza, so I have no shame. I love
Find
pizza.
a good balance.
Yeah.
Well, I think like that's one of the greatest things about the CrossFit community. And I would say like most athletic communities really are that way, where it's like they're embracing you for being there and being healthy and being strong.
Hmm.
Where I think like I've at least found that if you're in a workout environment, like usually people are just like, hey, look at you being here. Like no one's really judging in any way. And I think too, like especially stuff like CrossFit, where you can look at somebody who maybe can squat a lot more than you, but you can't do as many pull-ups as them. And like everyone just cheers that on
Hmm.
and embraces like, oh, they're awesome because they're strong, and
Hmm.
they're awesome because like look how much they've improved, or they're working hard, where I don't think anyone really is ever looking at their body being like, that's not great. Like
Yeah.
it's not a thought that any of
Yeah.
I don't think anyone who goes to CrossFit really has that mentality.
Yeah, I for sure like I think like even like from our level within the local community to even some of the games I've watched whenever there was an athlete that has come like into the last spot, you can see the other athlete from behind the scene like cheering them on. And that's probably one thing I love a lot is just like we live in a community, and I think that word especially has been more prominent than ever, especially in 2020, just
Yeah,
because whether it is a community, what's happening with the sport of CrossFit, to community and the aspect of like distancing while still being online with
yeah,
our friends and just our environment, to community with the whole, Black Lives Matter movement kind of thing. I think it is very much like a very much like community is a key word, I think, of
yeah.
2020. So I'm excited to see where things goes. I have no idea where things goes, kind of thing, but yeah. So far, I'm just gonna keep this podcast and see where it goes with it.
I like it.
Alrighty.
Sounds
With I guess that's my segue to closing statements. Do you have anything that you want to shout out to or whatever? I don't care. I'm just doing whatever I want on this podcast. So, any
good.
foundations or like people that you want to bring up or whatnot? Shameless plug. Like I'm some sort of sponsored person. I am not.
Right? I mean, if anyone has any questions, I feel like I am pretty involved in the nonprofit sector, so happy to plug anyone into any causes. I probably have a friend that works there, and I'm happy to help someone get connected to whatever cause they care about. And if
Alrighty.
you care about the legal sector, talk to me, and I'll help you.
All right. Well, with that, thank you very much for being our guest, Hallie. And
Yeah,
I think
thank
I'm just gonna end the recording because I don't have a smooth outro. So I'm
you. Okay,
just gonna end the recording. All right.
thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.